Today we're going to be talking about Vue filters. What are they? When would you use them? And most importantly, how do you build them? Vue filters give you the ability to manipulate the output of data without actually manipulating the data variable itself. Perfect for if you need to just change the case of a text or format a number in a nice way. If you find yourself wanting to actually manipulate the data, then steer clear of filters. Filters are purely for display and not for anything else. So if you find yourself joining arrays or replacing strings inside your filters, then take a step back and think about whether you should be using a computed property or a method. So to give you an example of a filter, here within our code, we've got a data of message. And the message is a classic hello world text with a capital H and a capital W. Within the HTML, we're outputting the message and then activating a filter by using the pipe. We then specify the name of our filter, in this case, lowercase. Back in the JavaScript, we've got a filters object where we declare a lowercase function name. Filters only ever accept one variable, which is the value of that is being output that we're filtering on. Inside of there, we just return the value to lowercase. As you can see on the left hand side, hello world is now fully lowercase compared to that. Filters should only really ever do one function, in this case lowercase the text. If we then wanted to reverse the string, we'd want to do it as a second filter rather than adding on and changing the functionality of the lowercase filter. This then gives us later the flexibility to only reverse strings or only lowercase. So let's build a new filter that's just going to reverse the string. Firstly, in the JavaScript, we can make a new function. We'll call it reverse, and that's going to accept a single value. Inside, we return the value. So to begin with, that's not doing anything. If we head over to our HTML, replace lowercase with reverse, we can save that and you can see that nothing has changed from our original data value. The next thing we need to do is actually manipulate value. Again, if you find yourself doing complex if statements and switch statements and all sorts of manner of things inside filters, you probably want to look at using a method or a computed value. So to reverse a string, you simply split the string on every character, which turns it into an array. You reverse the array, and then you join the string on every character. Going back to our app, pressing refresh, you can see now the string has reversed, but the data hasn't changed. If you use that data elsewhere, if we echo that data again, you can see the second one is exactly as it was in the instance. Filters are non-destructive. They don't change the actual value. As mentioned, we could chain our filters. So if we wanted to reverse and then lowercase, we can by just simply adding another pipe. There we have hello world reversed and lowercase. So these examples are everywhere. The hello world, the lowercasing, the reversing strings are everywhere. And although it sort of gets you started, it doesn't really give you a real world example. It doesn't give you anything to sort of grasp onto. So what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate some numbers in a real world case. So here we have a calculator that's calculating the price after VAT has been added. In the UK, we've got a 20% VAT rate. So what I want to do is I want to be able to enter a price here. For example, if I'm buying something that's £80 excluding VAT with a 20% VAT rate, it then works out to be £96. But looking at that isn't very user-friendly. Although percentages working out as a decimal is 0.2, it would be nice to display that as a percentage, and it would be nice to display this price as an actual price that a human can understand. Looking over at the HTML, we've got the input here we've got the VAT percent just being output and the price with VAT just being output. The input is bound to the Vue model of price. Within the app, we've just got two variables, the price, which you enter and gets updated, a fixed VAT rate, and then a computed amount, which works out the VAT. So starting with the percentage, what we want to do is we want to display it as a percentage without actually changing the value, without actually timesing it by 100, without actually changing what that decimal is. So we're going to make a filter for that. So to begin with, make a filter called %, which accepts the value, and then return the value inside. As with before, we can head over to the VAT and add that % filter. So the first thing we do for getting a decimal to a percentage is times it by 100. So we can do that. So suddenly we've got VAT % of 20. That's starting to read a bit better. Secondly, we want to add a % sign to our string. And suddenly, looking on the left-hand side, you can see instantly 20% reads so much better, but yet 0.2 is still our variable. It's still the variable we're using to calculate. The next stage is to format the output price. So we've got 80. Ideally, we want to give that a pound symbol and 2 decimal places to ensure that it is clearly a price. So once again, we can make a new filter. We'll call this currency. That will accept a value, and it will return the value. While I'm pressing refresh, I'm going to hard code the price to 80 so that I don't have to keep entering it. Pressing refresh, you can see it stays there now. And amount, we can add the currency filter. Once again, nothing has happened on the left-hand side yet. So when it comes to currency, there's a really good native JavaScript function called toLocalString. And what that does is immediately it means that numbers over 1,000 get comma delimited, so it's easier to read. That it has loads of options, and it's definitely worth heading off to MDN to read about it. I'll put a link in the description below. But one of the options it can do is style numbers like currency. So the first parameter is the language, because India, America, they all format their numbers differently to the UK. And the second parameter is an object which enables you to pass in several different options. So the style that we want is currency, and the currency we want is GBP. So what this should do is it should add any trailing noughts. So in this example, this would be 40p, not just 0.4, and it will also add a pound symbol at the beginning. Pressing refresh, you can see that 96 has now turned into 96.00 with the pound symbol, and even if we enter 1,000 in there, you'll get the desired comma. I hope that sort of helps you understand filters a bit more. If you like the video, just give us a like, maybe a subscribe. I will welcome feedback anywhere and everywhere. You can catch me on pretty much everything as @MikeStreety, and I will also publish a blog post with all the code and demos that you'll need.